Welcome to the Gridiron Expert. I'm Connor Hibbett. Today we're going to be looking at the Arkansas Razorbacks, and today I have Ty Richardson. Ty, how are we doing?
Connor, I'm good, man. Good to be on. Ready to talk some hog ball.
All right. Well, before we get into each position group for the 2025 Razorback football team, please tell us, Ty, where our viewers can find your content.
Yeah, at Ty Sports Radio on X. I'm not as active as I used to be honest, just because we got a bunch of other things going on at the station. But we're on ESPN Arkansas, hitthatline.com, the Hit That Line Now app. People listen to us not just in Arkansas, but outside of that as well. And our YouTube, X, Facebook, Twitch as well, if you want to consume not just the Morning Rush, the show I'm on with Tommy Kraft, but all of our other shows as well.
Gotcha. Well, Arkansas made a bowl game last year, played against Texas Tech, and showed pretty well. And entering this year, what would you say is the expectation for Sam Pittman? And if you don't want to answer this question to the full extent, I get it. But what do you think is the safe zones, so to speak, for Sam Pittman this year?
No, I don't. I'd see him keeping his job if they make a bowl game. I know there'd be Arkansas fans would be disappointed with that. I think I'd be a little disappointed if they just made a bowl game. But I mean, with this schedule, if they get 7 wins, I'll be really happy with the job that he's done, considering some of those wins, what they might come against, not just the conference competition, but the non-conference competition. I think like everyone in the state, I haven't met a single person, Arkansas fan, media member, whatever, Connor, that doesn't want Sam Pittman to win. But it's just a matter. It's like, is he going to an extent? I'm not talking about like back to back to back to back to back double digit win seasons, but I mean the last 3 years regular season wise, they've gone 6-6, 4-8, 6-6, and there's a great chance they go 6-6 again this year. Which is like again, I'll at least commend them for making a bowl with this schedule, but at the same time, it's like it's 4 just okay so years, which is just tough for Arkansas fans to stomach. Many of which have seen this team win double digit games. So you're always battling the in-state recruiting element, which Arkansas doesn't have a lot of, and also the pecking order that you find yourself in the conference football footprint, which is not at the top, if we're being honest.
And for the folks who do not follow the Arkansas Razorback football program that closely, the Arkansas athletics overall, they've got very high expectations. I mean, they're really good in baseball. They have really good money for basketball, track and field. Oh my gosh, is arguably the best in the country, at least one of the best in the country. And so overall, athletics just has extremely high expectations. And then when you look at it from a football perspective, I mean, a high ceiling, high floor program as well in football. It's just that the competition that they face there is top notch in the country. And so where I'm getting at is that for the people who don't follow Razorback football, they may just think in the last few years, okay, so this is a 500 program. Why should Arkansas fans expect more? Well, it's because of what they've done in the past. And they were one of the best teams in the nation in the 60s. I know that's going way back. They had a lot of great teams about 13, 14, 15 years ago. And so the expectation at Arkansas regarding all of their athletic programs is just extremely high expectations and extremely tough to reach there, especially for football.
Yeah, Connor, you mentioned some other elements on campus, being that the basketball programs won a national championship in 1994. You've got maybe the biggest brand in college basketball, and John Calipari is the head of your program. Softball is number one in the country for the first time ever. Baseball just beat the number one team in the country, smacked them this weekend in the Texas Longhorns. So a lot of programs on this campus are having success, but the main money drivers, is someone that covers this sport is football. And when that either doesn't reach the level of success that people want, or it's just maybe underwhelming expectations, it's a little disappointing at times. Like my favorite memory of 2024 was when Arkansas beat Tennessee in Fayetteville, in that beautiful stadium that's behind you, when there's 70, I think it was 76,000 announced attendance, and that place was rocking. Arkansas has had some great games over the years with Tennessee. Unfortunately, they didn't get a better moment than that. You're hoping that would be like one of 3 or 4 great moments that they had. And it just, don't get me wrong, they won some SEC games, but not against the cream of the crop, the elite competition. And they'll have their opportunities this year with the road schedule. It's brutal. But yeah, there's an expectation because, Connor, I don't know where you're from, but like there's not anything else in the state outside of a few other colleges in Arkansas. There's no professional teams. The only similarity is Nebraska. Nebraska is the only state college in the country that doesn't compete against really any other entities in the state overwhelmingly. LSU dominates Louisiana, for example, but they're
Yeah.
still the Saints and the Pelicans. Arkansas just has the Razorbacks and other institutions. So it's pretty wild. That can be good and that can be bad if you're the head football coach with the expectation sometimes.
There's certainly increased pressure for Sam Pittman at Arkansas. And you mentioned some of the difficult teams they're going to be facing this year, and some of the higher quality competition, and some of the elite players for Arkansas are going to have to step it up. And we'll start off things on the field for the Razorbacks at the quarterback position. Taylon Green. In fact, PFF just put out an article regarding some of the top 10 players at each position group, and they had Taylon Green in the top 10, or maybe he was like 11th in like honor roll mention for Taylon Green. So
Mm-hmm.
some of the stats last year regarding Green, I mean, he's an incredible athlete. I mean, he's very gifted, has the frame, 6'6", about what 235, 240 ish, I believe. And he had 22 big time throws last season, which was tied for ninth in the Power Four, and then his 453 rushing yards simply just after contact were the fifth most in the entire country. However, though, there were also 17 turnover worthy plays last year. What do
Mm-hmm.
you think the ceiling is for Green this fall?
Well, he was in a situation last where he wasn't going to win because he was getting compared to Lamar Jackson, Heisman Trophy winner, Matt Jones because of his height. Matt Jones is former Razorback quarterback for those watching. He's one of my coworkers, stud. And then also Tyler Wilson and the late Ryan Mallon. Those were his three other comparisons. A Heisman Trophy winner, one of the most gifted quarterbacks in Razorback history athletically, and two of the biggest arms that have ever stepped foot on this campus in Tyler and Ryan. So I mean, he just had these overwhelming expectations they couldn't meet as a year one quarterback coming from Boise State to this league. Now, with so many quarterbacks turning over, the expectations have been heightened and deservedly so. He lost his best wide receiver in Andrew Armstrong, lost Isaac Tesla, lost Isaiah Satania, and some other guys. So there are a lot of things that are working against him from his pass catcher standpoint. But he's in year two of the Bobby Petrino offense. Is he an all SEC quarterback? I think some homers and some Razorback people would tell you yes. I hope I'm wrong, but like to say that he is in that echelon after what I saw last season, I think would be a bridge too far. I think he could like a top six, top seven guy, which is still, by the way, really, really good when you factor in what these quarterbacks have to go in defensively. But they lost a lot on the offensive skill pieces, Connor. And that's something I wonder. While the offensive line may have gotten better with the guys they had in the portal, like if he didn't have any guys that can get open and create space or just dogs on the outside, then I don't know if it'll be a wash basically in this situation.
And I mentioned that he was 6'6", what, 240. I think I said it's actually closer to 230. I added several pounds there, and that's saying something because normally, when you pull up ESPN, they're going to add a few pounds for every player. I was just doing him the benefit of I was giving him the benefit of the doubt there,
Yeah.
adding extra more pounds there for him. But yeah, he's certainly a dual threat quarterback and one of the more athletic quarterbacks in the country. You mentioned though some of those skill players around him that are going to look different this year. That are going to be different. So in the receiving core, the top four from last year depart, and just 17 catches from the receiver room return for 2025. I know they hit the portal hard here. They bring in Omega Blake, and then I think they bring in Courtney Crutchfield,
Ismail Cisse,
Braylon
yeah.
Sharp. So
Yep.
how is this?
Cam Shanks.
Yeah,
They
how
added
is this
someone
room
guy
looking?
too.
I'm sorry.
It's a lot of new faces. You just named several of them, and I'm blanking. I'm sorry, Connor. They just added a Florida State kid just committed within the last 24 hours, and
Yes.
I can't think of the kid's name, but so there's a lot of. I mean, they got a lot of new pieces here. C.J. Brown is the young man from Bentonville, right up the road. Monte Harrison's back. I think Monte's almost 30 now. Is a guy that formerly, or maybe he's over 30, a guy that minor leaguer, and now taking a crack at college football. So there's a few guys that they got back, but no major contributors off last year's team. So now you wonder, it's like, hey, can Taylor get acclimated enough with these guys in the offseason to get ready for what's to come in fall? So they get, you might have it in front of you. If I remember their schedule correctly, they get Alabama A&M week 1 in Fayetteville. Then I want to say they go to Arkansas State
Yep.
or Little Rock and play Arkansas State week 2. Then Ole Miss, then Memphis, and then Notre Dame at home, and then conference play. I want to say off the top of my head, that's their schedule. So it's like, I mean, week 2, this Arkansas State, Connor, I don't know if you're aware, Arkansas and Arkansas State have never met on the gridiron. The Red Wolves have always wanted to play the Razorbacks for years under Frank Broyles. That was not going to happen. Things have changed, and now they're getting their first crack at Arkansas.
I never
So
knew
that
that.
is going to be,
I never
yeah,
knew that they haven't played yet. That's it's crazy, actually.
it's going to be a highly contentious game from the Red Wolves' perspective. And if Arkansas doesn't show up that day, they're going to lose. They're going to be 1-1, and they're going to be heading to Oxford that next week to play a team that Lane Kiffin has gotten the better of, Sam Pittman. And what have been some really good games. Like in 2021,
Oh
it was the
gosh.
best game in college football,
Yep.
ranked by ESPN. So there's just, they got to get off. Back to your original question about the wide receiver room and Taylor, you just got to get off to a fast start. Like they've got players that you like Sharps was a former teammate of Taylor's. Cam Shanks was a freshman All-American, I think, from the kick return and punt return standpoint last year. So, but like, can you stack up an SEC level? Andrew Armstrong, who was one of the most prolific players in Arkansas history in a single season, which, by the way, the fact that he made it out of the NFL draft without getting drafted is absurd. It took him 2 years. Like he wasn't like that in year 1. He had some flashes, but I mean, he didn't turn into a beast until this past year in year 2. So the process, it's got to happen quick. And I don't know if you should have like overwhelming expectations if you're an Arkansas fan with things working against you from the skill position standpoint.
And regarding the guy out of Florida State, I think that was Jalen Brown, I want to
Yep,
say.
that's it.
Okay, yeah. So from what I'm collecting here and with what you're saying about the receivers is someone might step up and someone very well could step up, but as of now, there doesn't seem to be an outright alpha wide receiver one. They still have to figure out who their go-to targets are going to be.
Yeah, I would say based on what people have written about in spring practice, and I mean, you read some of these columns, these updates, and you've listened to Coach Pittman. Now, coaches are more guarded now than ever before, so maybe he didn't want to say, "Well, yeah, this guy's been the alpha," because then that guy's going to get poached or try to get poached. So maybe that's just that. But my understanding is that like it's going to be the reason they've added some kids out of the portal in the spring cycle is because they need that position. So, and they got a Florida State quarterback as well that he signed. I'm sorry. Maybe it's Trevor something. I'm sorry, Connor. I'm having a brain fart today here on this Monday. I guess it's a case of the Mondays, but so they
That's all
signed
good.
the 2 Florida State guys, and I say, let me rephrase. They signed one the quarterback. It was Trevor Jackson, and then they're waiting on at least his kid's committed, Jalen Brown, but don't know that. So I think it, like you look at some other position groups, you're excited. I'm very hesitant to, even though it's year 200, Bobby Petrino and Taylor gets to come back, very hesitant to say they're going to be explosive offense just with so many faces in that wide receiver room.
Gotcha. And the quarterback that you're referring to, was it Trevor Jackson? Yeah.
Yep, Trevor Jackson. Yep, I think I
Okay.
said his name right like the 3rd time, but it took me a road less travel to get there.
And I'm just trying to get it right here for the sake of my notes here, trying to keep up as with as many teams as I can before we enter fall camp ultimately. But no, you're doing a really good job here. I appreciate it. So looking at the running back position for the Hogs, and I expect the running game to be, I guess, relied upon early, especially with
Mm-hmm.
Talon Green's strengths and maybe some questions still in the receiving core. Is this Braylon Russell's job to lose, or is this going to be more of a by committee approach, you think?
So Russell's apparently in the best shape of his life. Um, Washington comes over as a transfer. They had some success with Jaquindon Jackson last year, which I mean, if he's healthy, And he had fumble issues, but I mean, he was leading the SEC in yards and touchdowns for a good chunk of points of last season. You got AJ Green back, who started his career at Arkansas, goes to Stillwater, Oklahoma, plays for the Cowboys, and now back. But Russell, I think, was injured down the stretch of spring, so he didn't participate in some of the things. Had to get a minor surgery, if I remember correctly. So you're dealing with you're just dealing with a room where there's pieces you like. They're really high on Mike Washington with this team. So I don't, to that question, it's like, is he going to be the alpha? Is he going to demand all the carries and stuff like that? That's a good question. I'm really curious how they factor that out, because last year, Connor, Jaquan Jackson got
Yeah.
the bulk of the carries early and ended up getting injured and banged up, and he was dealing with cramps and other things. I wonder if they learned from last year. Now, player to player, everyone's different, but I wonder if there's some kind of back and forth with how they feed the rock this year, so to say.
Gotcha. And with the offensive line, so I don't think we ever got a true like fair representation of the offensive line last year. Had a lot of moving parts due to some injuries. And I know there's going to be some moving parts again this year, at least with some of the transfers that come in. So I'm trying to figure this all correct. So are the tackles going to be Georgia Tech transfer Corey Robinson and then returning left tackle Fernando Carmona?
So Carmona's moving on the inside. I think Amarion Harris is going to be the right tackle. I believe that's correct. These
That's what
are
I'm seeing here on these
I
other depth charts. Yeah.
yeah, I need to go back and look on some of that. There's there Arkansas. We're lucky here in the state. Whole Hog Sports, Matt Jones and their team do a fantastic job. Trey Biddy at Hog Sports does a phenomenal job as well. There's probably other people I could give shout outs to, Hog Beat and others, but I'm going to be honest. I hadn't. I need to. It's so wild with Connor with baseball being where it is right now. Still question. Basketball is kind of taking a back seat here in the last few weeks, but with baseball defeating Texas, the majority of the conversation here has been on that. Even though this is very much a football state, football first. Arkansas is unique, Connor, in the sense that like fans care about football, basketball, and baseball, and then softball and some of the other sports as well.
That's why it's so difficult, as we mentioned from the get-go, for Sam Pittman because there's just so many high expectations across Arkansas athletics. Um, so the offensive line, is this a group you think can be relied upon overall for Arkansas this year? Do you think it's a quality unit?
So I think when you think about Sam Pittman, obviously that's your first thought process is what he's been able to do and his track record of success. 2020, they were okay. It's his first year. Like, you can't expect much. 2021, they were great. Best power
Yeah.
rushing in the power four. I guess it was power five at the time. They were awesome. I mean, Rocket Sanders, Dominique Johnson, AJ Green, they were running wild. Traylon Smith. I mean, it was fun to watch. 2022, they took a step back. They had games here and there where they looked great. 2023, bad, 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 bad. 2024, not great at times. Some of those sacks were on Taylor Green's lack of
Yeah.
pocket awareness and bad reads. I'm not going to pretend to be Bobby Petrino or anyone, but you can tell like a play design. Sometimes you could like a read option or something. You could see it. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out. He'd make the wrong read and then get sacked or something would get blown up or something like that. So your original question is, can they be relied upon? You hope so, because you still won. Like, the reason they went 9-4 back in 2021 is because they had one of the best offensive lines in college football. Like that unit didn't win the Joe Moore Award, but at least I think they're up for the discussion. Since then, they haven't. Like, you go back to Brett Bielema's years when Sam Pittman was the offensive coordinator, they had some really, really salty offensive lines. Frank Ragnow, who is the Detroit Lions center, Dan Skipper. I mean, there are some key cogs that were on that group that are now playing in the National Football League, and Sam Pittman's just hoping he can rally these guys together and they can have some of the similarities that those 2015 teams did and or the 2015 team did and that 2021 team did.
Well, it would not shock me if they did perform pretty well this year, especially given Sam Pittman's background. So, if we switch things over to the defensive side of the football, the defensive line last year was a stout group. And
Mm-hmm.
now five of the top six must be replaced. Do you think that there is another Landon Jackson in the making here?
They don't really like Charlie Collins and Quincy Rhodes, two younger guys on this roster. But you mentioned, I mean, five of the top six dudes are not here. Cameron Ball's the best of the bunch. I mean, inside they got, I think it's Philip Lee is the kid from Troy, if I remember that right. He's the one of the big gets in the offseason. So I know they're excited about getting him and what he could do for Arkansas. I think he's kind of not as heralded as some of the other end transfers, but their Arkansas staff seems to be really high on him. Is there a Landon Jackson there? No, probably not. I mean, Landon was a third round pick. He had like 3.5 sacks against Alabama 2 years ago. I mean, he was just at times it's like, okay, you see why this is an NFL guy, but he was also there's criticisms of Landon in the draft process because he didn't have these just insane numbers. It's like Connor, that's the I don't know what the equivalent would be for you and me. But if we didn't get any help in what we do and everything was on us to do, and other people in our industry got help and had other people helping them out, and yet our stuff was still good, it just wasn't great. But that's what Landon didn't get any help last year in roughing the passer. So he was, and that's I mean, he had great combine numbers, but he didn't explode. There were guys that had games here and there, but by and large, they did not have just like when it came to the identity of getting to the quarterback. Their sack numbers were not off the charts, but they did have like Eric Gregory made some plays, especially in that Tennessee game. I mean, Lando at times was all over the field. They had a group that was stout. Were they Georgia, Alabama, LSU worthy? No, but there's going to be plenty of guys from last year that they'll miss, and they'd love to have back for this year's team.
I feel like Landon Jackson, since high school, has been slightly overlooked, honest, because I think he
Mm-hmm.
came from a 4A high school, I want to say.
Texarkana, Pleasant Grove in Texarkana is where he's from.
Yeah. Um, do you think the transfer from Abilene Christian, I think he's like 315 or so, David Okey, is he supposed to be in the starting lineup? I mean, at a lot of places I see him listed as a starting defensive tackle. At the very least, I guess too deep.
Yeah, too deep wise, like it's gonna be him, Jafar. I always butcher this guy's name. I feel bad. Sorry, Dan. It's Salih or
Oh,
Sali. I can't remember.
I see him
Um,
listed here. Yeah.
yeah, but Cam Ball is gonna. He's the best of the bunch. There's not Connor. If you look up, like when we get done talking, I want you to type in Cam Ball, Arkansas on Twitter and then also on YouTube, and you will not be more You will be so quickly infatuated by this kid. He is funny. He like makes his own barbecue. He's just a good old boy. Like he's just cool. Like everyone he had the best coaches show of anyone last year of any player. And he's also like not only is he funny and engaging and everything else, but he's also really talented. So sky's the limit for this kid post football, everything else, and his teammates seem to love him too. Like they did this segment called I think it's called Hog Ones. You know, like that Hot Ones thing,
Yes.
Connor. Okay,
Yeah.
so they did something similar called the Hog Ones, and Cam was the host of it, and it was entertaining. So just that's the guy. If you take away anything from this conversation, Cam Ball's the real deal.
Well, that's awesome. So Cam might have a career in sports or something in media related after football because he seems like he's an outgoing extrovert kind of person.
Yeah, he can find success in a lot of different places. He obviously has the skill set and body type to play in the National Football League, and it was interesting. So Cam is really high on Arkansas because he was a 3-star kid from Georgia, and they stuck on him. He was under recruited. Now I guarantee if he hit the portal, he'd have a lot of suitors. But he's a loyal kid. He also I remember specifically. So Arkansas played in the AutoZone Liberty Bowl last year, and I was up by the stage and all the players and everything. And Cam was one of the more vocal leaders on that team. And I kept hearing him say, "We got all we need," because there's a lot of guys that hit the portal before that game. It's like, and he was almost reiterating what Coach Pittman had said leading up to that game. And I just thought that was a cool moment to hear him. I also got an awesome picture of him holding up the Liberty Bowl thing after the game. I think what's in terms of bowls, Connor, bowl games are not as highly regarded anymore.
Right.
It just be in the current climate of college football. But these kids that play and are actually there, man, blood, sweat, and tears still out there, man. And that celebration, listen, 6-6 team, they go 7-6 after the win. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you they should be regarded as one of the best teams in Arkansas history. I'd be a fool to say that. But you could tell how excited they were to win that game. And it's so hard to judge if that actually propels teams in the offseason nowadays because there's so many moving parts now. But I mean, didn't hurt. Didn't hurt winning that game against Texas Tech that you referred to earlier.
Right. And the thing I think that gets overlooked a lot in today's day and age of bowl games, you hear like, three of the top four receivers are entering the transfer portal, and maybe two of the top three are, and then maybe one of their better receivers is sitting out for the NFL draft, opting out, whatnot. And so everyone's questioning like, do they have the players in place to go out and win this game? And then you hear about you don't hear about these backups, and these guys end up playing really well, and they
Mm-hmm.
pour their hearts out for the team. So I mean, yeah, bowl games don't look like they used to, at least the non-playoff bowls. They don't really look like how they used to, but the heart and the determination is still there for a lot of the players, which is
Yeah.
awesome to see.
And it's, you go back and forth because I'm not going to sit here and tell you that all these 6-6, 7-5 type bowls are like, this is the greatest thing ever because it's not. Like they changed the way that we look at the sport. The college football playoff is where you want to be. Honestly, I don't even want to be in the top four. I want to be in the what is it, 8 through 11?
Oh yeah,
I want to host the game.
like the
Eight.
path Penn State had last year. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's what you want to do. But it just it's like you go back and forth all the time, and that's just kind of one of the memories I have for being in Memphis this last year.
Well, looking back here on the defensive side of things for the Razorbacks this fall. So in the linebacking unit, two of last year's top three do return. They lose Brad Spence to Texas, which doesn't help. Now? I have heard a lot of great things about Tavian Wallace. Is he a future star here, you think?
Yeah, he's a kid that they really Bradley Shaw is the one that Taven Wallace is a kid that they're really like, and Bradley Shaw as well. Excited for both those young linebackers. I think the one that probably is going to get the most like glory and deserves so is Xavier Sori. This kid from Georgia, transfer, former 5-star kid, had a great season last year. Still wish Spence was here. I really like Brad Spence. I like listening to him. Thought he was a good football player. Texas kid, goes to Texas. Hate that, but sometimes it's just how it goes. This unit that has some guys, and they added what's that kid's name? I was literally on message with I think it's Trent something. They added him in the offseason. I'm gonna double check on his name, but they have some players that can stack up in the SEC that you really like, and then others you just have question. Trent Whalen's the young man's name that I forgot.
Okay.
That you just have question marks about, like every other position group really on this roster outside. Like Taylor, I guess, is probably the one because it's a quarterback position. I guess behind him, you've got KJ Jackson, and we mentioned Trevor Jackson earlier. KJ's a young man from Montgomery. Trevor's a Florida State kid. And then also Blake Boda is the other one. Is there one more that I'm missing? Probably one more I'm not thinking about. But I mean, there are areas of concern. But I would say the most notable ones, like secondary, because you got like Cam anchors the defensive line, and I know he's in the middle, maybe not on the outside. Linebackers, you got Sori. I'm a little worried about the secondary and the wide receivers, just because there's so many new names. That doesn't mean that Coach T will can't figure it out on the defensive back end, and then also Coach Fouch, the wide receivers coach. But those are just ones that you're like, all right, well, believe it when I see it. Let me see what these guys do in Oxford, Mississippi in week 3.
So just like the receiving core, the defensive secondary has a lot of new faces, and you were just discussing the secondary. Do you think it could be addition by subtraction, or is it kind of a let's wait and see here? Because the last couple of years, the Arkansas secondary has not been the strength of the defense. In fact, it really hasn't been a quality unit since 2021 because 2022 they had a ton of injuries. 2023, 2024, it's been up and down, inconsistent play. So is it kind of like wait and see for right now?
I think so. You mentioned kind of the turnover and everything else. So here's the issue, Connor, and people love to point to stats, and I understand that. Like that's part of the good and bad sometimes when you look at sports. But imagine having at times a just really inconsistent offense that'll go 3 and out and be back on the field, stopping the other team, but then be back on the field. So stats will lie to you. Like this team, with the exception, I got to go back and double check, but I'm like 99% sure the only 2 games that didn't give this team a chance to win last year, I'm talking from the defense and most notably the secondary, was LSU and Ole Miss. Jackson Dart ripped them apart, as did Garrett Nussmeier. Look at the other 11 games, which 10 plus the ball game. I mean, that defense gave them a chance to win in virtually every one of those games. So while the secondary was ripped apart at times last season from a fan standpoint, and I mean, there were other games that they did all they could, and the offense just didn't do enough. Like I'll give you an example. I know Oklahoma State wasn't good last year at all, but if you go to Stillwater week 2 and you don't allow an offensive touchdown until the fourth quarter, like you're doing something right against one of
Oh,
the best offensive lines in college football. And
talk
again,
about the post game win expectancy there for Arkansas. Like Arkansas was the better team to not win that game.
yes, and that's what frustrates fans at times under Coach Pittman. It's like right there, and they don't grab it. And I know
Mhm.
there's a lot of intricacies and things that go into winning a college football game. I don't want to boil it down to just like one player, one thing, but that's what drives fans nuts at times. So hopefully, addition by subtraction. Hopefully, they just get better. I'm a staunch Travis Williams defender. Any of the one that dogs on him or rips him, I think he's a really good coach, and he's going to get a shot at head coaching someday. And I'm happy that they retained him and Coach Petrino for years 2 for Petrino and year 3 for T. Will.
Well, so before we finish things off here, I'm going to ask you a question in regards to Arkansas's ceiling
Okay.
this year. If Arkansas ends up being a top 25 team this year, um, what position group? So outside of Taylor Green and quarterback, what position group besides quarterback would you look at and say they were the reason why Arkansas had a breakthrough season if Arkansas does in fact have a really good year?
Well, skill position is all. I mean, I'll just tell the 2 position groups I'm most worried about. It's the wide receivers and the secondary. Like the secondary is serviceable to a little better than okay, and you get kind of what you're expecting from Campbell and the D line and linebacker Sabian Sori, then you're gonna have a decent defensive unit. And if you're like you said, don't say Taylor Green, but if like Taylor Green has some dudes to throw the ball to that can make plays, his job gets easier.
Yeah.
You're thinking the offensive line is better. I don't, running backs wise, maybe it's a wash, maybe it's a little bit better, maybe it's a little worse than last year. I don't know if it's like drastically better or worse than last season. So I think it has to be the wide receivers in the secondary, Connor. I mean, that if that works out, then they'll have a good ball club this year. I mean, maybe 8 wins with like if you include a bowl. I don't think. I mean, legitimately, I don't know how they get to 9 wins. I,
Yeah.
I, I just can't like I can't see a scenario for Sam Pittman to repeat what he did in 2021. But listen, I'm wrong as much as the clock ticks. So I hope I'm wrong on that one again.
So we said it from the start of the show here. The schedule is extremely difficult for Arkansas, as it is for practically every single SEC team outside of like maybe Missouri. Um, from the second half of September on to about, oh gosh, late October here. And really, from at Ole Miss September 13th all the way to the very end of the year, maybe outside of a home game against Mississippi State. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
every single one of these games are extremely challenging. At Ole Miss, at Memphis, Notre Dame, at Tennessee, A&M, Auburn, at LSU, at Texas, and Missouri. That's really difficult.
Yeah, it's live for the SEC. Arkansas did itself no favors when scheduling the Memphis Tigers for this, however long ago. Notre Dame is a brand, a marquee, happy you're on their schedule, just not after they come off a national championship appearance. And oh, by the way, you're having to play a school that's wanted to play you for like a century. So I believe
It'll
an Arkansas fan, Connor. Just all those screaming fans behind you are thinking, why did we do this to ourselves again in 2025?
Well, it'll be a really interesting season for the Razorbacks, and I'm interested to see how they do and if they can improve in the SEC and move up in the standings in conference play. Well, Ty, really good job today, and we appreciate you being on the show. And again, really good insight on the Razorbacks, and we're looking forward to seeing how Arkansas does this coming fall. And I know Alex, who is the other person that helps run this YouTube channel. He is actually the guy that made this YouTube channel, the Gridiron Expert. He's been running it for several years now. I know he's an Arkansas fan, so I know
Mm-hmm.
he's very much intrigued.
Yeah, I think we all are. I appreciate the compliments. It was marginal at best, but you're a good host, and I appreciate you helping me along on this.
Well, I appreciate the compliments, and we'll look to have you on again next year. And before our time runs up here on the meeting, go ahead and tell our viewers once more where they can find your content.
Yeah, hit that line.com. Probably the best way. You can get on our Twitter or I guess X, Facebook, YouTube, watch all of our content. We got 4 local Arkansas shows Monday through Friday from 6A to 7P and try to provide Arkansas fans a informative and entertaining content throughout the day and also cater to the Razorback games and everything else. Connor.
All right, well, Ty, again, thank you for being on the channel, and have a good one. And we'll again we'll have you on again this time next year.
Sounds like a plan. Appreciate it.
Yeah.